How do I start this thing?
Have you plugged the bloody USB in?
Yeah, it's in.
Nah, man, that's the wrong port. Oh, wait, it's flashing now.
Is it it's recording.
Well, let's start this thing, fool!
Hello everyone, I'm Amelia.
Hi, I'm Sam. Welcome to Ask the Duo podcast, a podcast where we get deep into those late night, unfiltered conversations.
We'll be discussing all things lifestyle, relationship, mindset, and more.
Alright, let's get to it!
And we're back.
Hello.
Welcome. So today's topic actually came up really recently through work. It was for a pitch and I had to pretty much write a sales pitch for myself. Essentially a resume where you have to talk about your achievements, like not just write a resume where you talk about what you've done and your roles and stuff. It's talking about the actual achievements that you've done while you've worked on your job. And I actually really struggled to write anything down. Like I actually stared at this Google Doc for an hour, and it wasn't just staring. I was actually trying to squeeze out and think about the achievements, and I just couldn't do it.
What made you stutter?
Like the reason, like I've always known that I was never good at talking about achievements, because you know how I think most work people would do that, like at the end of the week or the end of the month, they usually talk about your wins, your losses, and your challenges. And with challenges, it's okay, I can talk about that, but every time it comes to my wins or my achievements, I always I find myself avoiding it, and I'll make people be like, oh, let's come back to me later, or I'll just say I don't have anything to add. And I've always known I struggled, but when it got to this point where I actually had to write it and hand it in to someone, I was actually struggling to the point where I was like, shit, all these emotions came up, and I was actually on the point of almost tearing up, and I didn't know why, but I know why I didn't have any achievements, because I never saw any of my jobs or the things that I've done that I've completed as an achievement. And why I say that is because throughout my upbringing, say I did something, I completed a task, and if I showed that to my parents and be like, hey look, I did this, my parents would just be like, or they'd just be like, very briefly be like, oh, good job, or like, you can do better than that. So I think as a culture, a lot of the times we downplay our achievements and I think from their point of view, they're trying to keep you humble, which is really cool. Like, just don't be so over egotistic over what you've achieved,
right,
and push yourself to do better, which is a good thing. But at the same time, it has now made me never see any of my tasks that I've completed or done or reached a milestone as an achievement. I always think that it could have been done better, or I can do better, or it's just a job.
Yeah, I think from my experience, I probably only relate to it by half.
Why do you say that?
And I say that because my parents, they didn't really celebrate my achievements, but they never pushed me or communicated in a way where I wasn't doing good enough. So the expectation from them was never ingrained in my brain. But I did feel your struggles when it comes to work in relation to when work has their end of the week, like, oh, what's your top achievements? Blah, 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 blah. What's your wins and that sort of stuff. There was a point where I did struggle pinpointing what I did was considered a win. And how, I guess, I kind of moved forward from that was just acknowledging that what I was doing, even if it was minuscule or a real minor task, it's still a win.
Yeah, but that's my struggle. Like, I get where people are coming from. So I think as the head of operations, what she said is that I need to start, like, as a suggestion, to start practicing every week. Write down your achievements, your small things, like big or small, doesn't matter. There's no ego attached to it, and I do really appreciate her saying that. But like, because I also try and see what other people pick out as an achievement, and they say, like, they completed this task, but to me, when I see like a small task, like say I completed going through my emails or something like that, yeah, it's an achievement, but at the same time, I consider that's just your job. I don't think of it as an achievement, and I know that's a bit on me, that I need to open up my mindset to that. But at the same time, I just can't wrap my head around as celebrating that as a small win. Like, I just think it's too small to even be a win.
Yeah, and I get where you're coming from, because I was very similar in the fact that small achievements, whether it's just checking your email, was nothing. But at the end of the day, yes, you are employed to do a certain task and procedure and follow that stuff to the fullest. But at the same time, when you do get busy, it's a struggle to even do those small tasks. So for me, in order for me to understand that, I had to basically go, well, okay, out of one whole day, I struggle to check my emails. So if I can just check my emails, I'm just going to put that as a task that I have finally achieved as a small thing.
Yeah. So one of my managers, because it was so bad that I actually had to ask help for someone to tell me what did I achieve. My manager gave me a few things. So I started this job here without knowing how to use this certain program, right? And she picked out a few things that I didn't even consider as achievements, but when I read it, I was like, oh, yeah, I can actually consider that as achievements. So one of the things that she wrote was, I picked up and learnt how to use this program, like, pretty much straight away, and learnt how to use it well under a certain time period. And I actually never considered that, because I was like, this is more a need for my job. I needed to learn how to use this program in order to do this job. So I didn't think of that as an achievement, because I just needed to learn how to do it, because without doing that, I can't do my job.
Yep. And I think that's just a difference in the way your mind thinks, which is why you didn't think of it when it came to displaying what your achievements and your wins are.
Yeah.
And I understand where you're coming from, because from a cultural perspective, we are taught to jump in and learn as fast as possible, get shit done without even complaining.
Yeah.
So having that background, it's ingrained in your brain to think and feel that way, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it did take me some time to change, and because I was the same thing, even though, yes, my parents weren't as harsh as yours, or the way they ingrained things wasn't like that, but the culture was definitely the same, in the fact that when it came to work, you got to give it your fullest.
I think the other thing, it was the upbringing, partially how they kept pushing me and saying that I can do better, or like they don't really celebrate my small achievement, but it was all more my personality. Is that what I've noticed is I will actually push myself to the hardest that I can when I know that I'm in like a detrimental situation. So what I mean by this is, like, for example, my very first design job, when my manager told me that my designs were shit and he can't show it to his clients, that's detrimental to me, because it's a make or break. If I don't improve now, I can't stay or continue to stay here or learn what I'm doing, like design. So I need to push myself to continue to learn as much as I can and absorb everything as a sponge and keep pushing forward. But like, without these kind of pressures, I'm not saying that I would be lazy and not learn, but I work best when I have these like turning point kind of pressures on me, where I'm like, okay, my stuff is shit, now I need to get my shit together.
Yeah, and that's considered a pro too. It's a good thing because it's forcing you to strive and push yourself to do better.
Yeah. It's a good and a bad thing. Like, it means that I can work under pressure, and I definitely can perform under pressure. But at the same time, you shouldn't always put your mind through that kind of pressure as well. Like, you should still push yourself to the fullest, even without someone being like, oh, your work is so shit, I can't have you here, kind of thing.
Yeah, and exactly right. Like, it goes both ways, right? It's a negative thing because emotionally you're going to get affected.
Yeah,
your confidence is going to be affected.
Yeah, and if you don't celebrate even just the small wins, being like, oh, this week or this month that I've been here, I'm saying as like a new designer, they came in, they didn't know how to do anything, and they didn't know how to design a homepage. But now 3 months later, you can design a homepage under an hour. That's an achievement. And then you have to celebrate that. Not celebrate as in like, I need to go treat myself to a dinner out or something like that. It's just acknowledging that this is how far you've come. And then in another 6 months, you can design a homepage in 30 minutes. Like, it's just celebrating the small little steps as you progress and acknowledging that as a achievement. Yeah. So I think it's good to have that, because over time, if you don't do that, it can take a toll on your emotional well-being too.
Yeah, because you not celebrating that is basically on the back of your mind. You're feeling like you're not actually progressing.
Yeah, that, and you're also putting negative words in your head, and you're just always saying that you're not good enough and you need to do more.
Correct. So acknowledging and celebrating the small achievements, it's going to force you to keep going, strive forward, but also you now know what your next achievement or goal has to be.
And I think it kind of I wouldn't say fall hand in hand, but it can work alongside trusting your process, the one that we talked about a few episodes ago. And it's about having your little to-do list or your goals, a list of goals, and working through that. And every time you tick off something, acknowledge that you've achieved or ticked off something off that list and keep going.
100%. It's just like, I like to think of it like a game. You have small objectives. You have your primary, like, main mission, and
like
then you've
your
got
little
side
Mario
objectives.
stages.
Yeah, and it's like, in order for you to finish a game, you have to hit each milestone, whether it's small, big, medium, large, whatever it is. And it's progression. You know what I mean? And it's motivation to progress. And you have to have those milestones or even small things to go, yeah, I've ticked that box. Nice. Now to the next one.
Well, actually, yeah, that actually brings a good point. So if you think of it as a game point of view, and you have your little stages, and as you progress through the stages, when you complete a stage, you're happy about it. You're like, yeah, I completed that stage. Now I can go to the next one. And now you're tackling the next challenge. But as a person, I don't know why in my mind I don't do that. And I think a lot of people are the same. So when you progress through that stage, you don't celebrate it. You're like, okay, what's the next one? Or I need to get here. So you're very focused on where you want to get to or how big you want to get to, but you don't celebrate the small in between wins. And it's important to do that.
Apart from celebrating, it's just not acknowledging it. Hey, yeah, even for me, I don't celebrate the small things.
Yeah, well, I don't mean celebrate as in you actually like whip out a glass of wine and be like cheers.
No,
or
but I'm saying like acknowledging that achievement.
Yeah.
Because you need to have those things. Like I keep saying that.
It's healthier to acknowledge it and be happy and confident in yourself along the journey, as opposed to always thinking that you're not good enough. Like, it's better to always think like happy, have positive thoughts as you're progressing, and celebrating and acknowledging those things along the way.
What are you doing to start acknowledging the stuff that from your current experience now?
To be honest, nothing. I probably should be doing something, but I don't know. It's really hard for me.
Well, now that you've realized the things that you're doing that others are telling you that is an achievement, now that you've acknowledged that and you've gone, shit, I didn't realize those things can be considered as a small goal or even an achievement. Does that make you feel any different?
I don't know. The only thing that made me feel different is I don't know what it was, but it made me feel really emotional. I don't know if
in a
it's
good way or
no, like I said at the start, I actually teared up, and even now I feel like tearing up, and it's like maybe it's because I've never had someone, and it's not never, but it's such a rare occasion where people would be like, "You've done a good job," and because I hear that and to see that, it's like I don't know what to do with that emotion apart from crying because you don't hear that.
Yeah.
So I actually feel like tearing up.
But I think from a business perspective, especially whoever that person was who spoke to you about that stuff, for them to acknowledge that and tell you what you've done, that's good enough. That's someone that's actually saying, hey, Amelia has actually achieved something here. As minuscule or big it is, it's something that you have achieved.
Yeah, I get that. But like in terms of next steps of how I'm going to tackle this, I don't know yet. I think...
So just to jump in, what that person said was you should start noting down small things that you have achieved in your little diary or something. And that's going to help you. I think that's a good start. And that's what I used to do. So I am a person who was in your same position where I used to never think of any wins, any achievements. I used to just go, well, yeah, that's tiny. That's not nothing. I always used to see the bigger picture. And until I hit that big picture, that's a yeah, fuck yeah, got it.
Yeah, but how do you do that? Do you actually physically write your own notes in like your notepad or something like that?
Yeah, either you physically write it or I would have a notes. So on your MacBook, you have a little notes thing. I used to use that. And I used to just jot it down for like, say you have to track every single day for that week. I'd do like Monday, I did this, I've done this. At the end of the day, that is. Or if you really wanted to, you can go, okay, at the Friday, let's summarize it. What do we achieve?
But is that for yourself or do you hand it to someone or is it just note to yourself?
That's just a note to myself. And I used to do this with my team where I would catch up with them on, say, a Tuesday, the start of the week, and I catch up with them at the end of the week. At the start of the week, I said, okay, what do we need to achieve? What's your goals? What do you want to do? Anything you have? And I get them to say and tell me what it is. And then at the end of the week, I catch up and go, hey, outside of our, let's say, KPIs, what did you specifically achieve? Are you happy with that? Is there anything that you want to improve? And I go through every single person. And that helps them acknowledge, one, how busy it was in that week. Two, did they have to achieve anything? And did they achieve anything? And three, is there anything broken within the process? And they will tell me that, hey, this is what we need to implement, or I struggled at this particular point. How can I improve that? And I would brainstorm with them.
Yeah, but like that I can understand and that I can do because those are all talking about challenges, struggles, issues. But it's about the fact that you've finished something and you've done something. I don't see it as an achievement because, again, it's just a job. It's just a task.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things that you just need to look outside of that because from a cultural perspective and upbringing, we're so ingrained in the fact that a job is a job and you have to give it 150% regardless of what the bullshit and politics is in there. But it's about understanding that, yes, it is a job, but this is your life. You are in there 9 to 5, 8 to 5. You're working 5 days fucking every week. This is more than just a job. You have to enjoy it kind of
thing. I think the struggle is that I've just lived off the life and mindset that I need to tell myself that I'm not doing good enough to be able to keep pushing. And I feel like if I laze back in my mind to be like, yes, this is an achievement and acknowledge that, I feel like I'm scared I will get lazy and not want to push further. I don't know if that will actually be the case. It's just that I'm worried that I might
I think it's because
change that.
It's outside your normal standard comfort zone.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it's not that, I don't think of it, like you should probably consider it not as a positive or a negative thing because if it's a small task or an achievement, that should be something to be acknowledged or acknowledge of. But don't let that stop motivating you to push further down the track.
Yeah. No, that's is really good points, and I definitely think even just weekly reflections, and maybe I think I just think too literally about wins and achievements like that. Maybe it's that word that kind of...
Yeah, it is, because I was exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
And I understand where you're coming from, because it took me a little bit to understand what is defined as a win and an achievement.
Well, it's not the definition, it's just the word. The word itself, to me, is too much of a celebration. Like, I feel like maybe it's just that humbleness that our culture brings in. Like, you don't want to categorize it as like a win, if you get what I mean.
Yeah.
Like, you can still celebrate it and acknowledge it, but I just feel like win and celebrate is just too big of a word to take on for something as simple as going through your emails and replying to everything. Like, that's just an example.
Yeah, and I think it's just the choice of the word, right? But it's just acknowledging that, yeah, you've made that achievement. You've done that task for whatever that week is. Now it's to keep going, keep moving forward. What do we need to do next?
Yeah.
And it's meant to motivate you, to push you to the next whatever it is.
Yeah. No, it's been a good chat. I think definitely start. For me, I think my action plan is to do what you say, like open up a notepad, Google Doc, and just reflect on the day, reflect on the week. And I think for me, I just can't use the word win or celebrate, but just say that this is what I've done for the week, what I've achieved for that week. And I think that might be a good start for me.
And to that, you just got to probably just lay off looking at the long-term stuff as well. Like, what do you want to achieve at the very end of it? You got to think about the small, medium, long-term goals, achievements in there too. And those are the things that you need to accept and basically go, yeah, okay, cool, I've hit that, I've done that, let's keep going.
Yeah, so that's what head of operations was saying. Like, if you start to acknowledge all the small things, when you become, say, a manager or something, and you look back, now you can see all the little small achievements, big or small, that you've done to build yourself to where you are now.
Yeah, 100%. And I agree with that too.
Yeah, well, thank you for your words of wisdom, and thank you for the ones that have given me the words of wisdom. It has really been helpful, because it was actually a shock to me. I didn't actually think that I would get so emotional over achievements. Like, who do you hear would cry over talking about things that you've achieved? That's really weird. But yeah, it has been an emotional toll, as people say, that if you don't celebrate it, it will hit you. And I think it has hit me when I had to think about it. So hopefully anyone who is in the same position, who are struggling to acknowledge their achievements, let's do this exercise together and just reflect every, let's say, weekly basis, and write down your small wins.
Yeah.
Small achievements.
I think just tracking your achievements will help you acknowledge and comprehend what is actually happening in the forefront of your mind, because you're so ingrained in your routine, you're so ingrained in, that long-term objective or goal, but the small things go pretty far too.
I think it's also helpful not just to acknowledge your achievements. If you were to look back and see what you've done to help you grow, and you've noted it down, now you know the small things that you've done, and maybe when you come to a challenge, you can look back and be like, what did I do in a similar situation? And you can look back and be like, okay, in this challenge I did this last time, maybe I can do this again to see if I can overcome it.
Yeah, 100%.
Well, that's it for this one. We'll keep it short, and let's hope we all celebrate our small wins together.
That's it, mate.
All right, bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much if you have reached to the end. We really appreciate you for tuning in. And if you like what you hear, please share it with your friends or family, and subscribe to our podcast on whatever platform you are listening to.
Make sure you share any topics you'd like us to cover, or questions you might have, to our Instagram.
Slide it into our DMs.
Bigger. You can also stay in the loop of all the behind the scenes and the release of our new episodes there too. Our Instagram is Ask the Duo Podcast. That's AskTheDuoPodcast. Man, feels like I'm in a spelling bee competition right now. Alright, that's it for now, and we'll see you back here for our next episode. Bye!
See ya!